The lights are off and away they go.
Extremely loose. He's managed to hold on. I think
He missed the pit complete. That is crazy
Side by
stuff.
side, Freitas is on the grass on the infield floor. He slides through. He tags Richard Eck.
Hello folks, and welcome to yet another GSRC broadcast of the iSuperSpeedway.com Super Speedway series featuring the Gen 6 cars. Well, the last race in the series was on August 22, and that was won by Brandon Tuberco, followed closely by Mark Jorgensen and Rod Flagg. Tonight we are once again at Talladega for round number 8 of the series. I am Richard Losper, and joining me this evening is Evan Pasocco and Joe Peak. Our director is Giancarlo Lenzi, and our camera sets are provided by the indomitable Dougie Beard. Well, Evan, before we get into the details of this event, let's talk a little bit about this iconic speedway. I know we've spoken so many times about it, but there may be some new viewers, so let's tell them all about it.
Yeah, definitely, and we alternate between Talladega and Daytona. One of the main differences, this racetrack has almost a completely new additional line up top, almost a story more of banking at this facility. It does have 80,000 fans that can pack in, but the track itself is an asphalt surface at 2.666 miles in length. Turns 1 and 2 banked at about 33 degrees, and turns 3 and 4, if you guys want to get really technical, is about 32.4 degrees in turn 3, 32.5 degrees in turn number 4. Also 16.5 degrees of ranking down that front straightaway. That tri-oval, again, the start-finish, unlike Daytona, is not in the center of that tri-oval. It's about 100 more yards down from that. That 16.5 degree tri-oval could almost be considered a turn within itself, because that can play a major factor into the end of these races. And then obviously the back straightaway is banked at a little bit of 3 degrees. You don't really feel that, but tonight's race, it's going to be 47 laps, guys. We're used to that distance, 125 miles. Nothing real crazy going on with the weather. A little bit warm here at 79 degrees, 82% humidity, a little bit of wind to the east at 2 miles an hour, and partly cloudy.
Well, thank you, Evan. And Joe, tell our viewers all about our social media.
Absolutely. Remember, folks, you can follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Global Sim Racing Channel and Twitter at GSR Channel. So if you have any questions or comments about this broadcast or want to stay in touch with the world of GSRC, you know where to find us. And you can tweet us live during the broadcast. We try to keep an eye on that. Since we've got cautions, we might have a chance to answer your questions live on the air.
Thank you, Joe. And Evan, back to you. They have some very special rules that they brought in recently to try and kind of clean up the act of some of these guys. So tell the folks about those new rules.
Yeah, tonight is race number 8 in a 12-race season, and after the All-Star race, which was the midway point, so we've had one race so far with these new rules in effect, and that would be no bump drafting in the corners of the tri-oval. During the All-Star race, we saw a lot of strange contact. These guys are continuously, working with the setup, trying to find the right package. And we had a couple of incidents there in the All-Star race, so they have taken out the bump drafting in the corners of the tri-oval. You can get tucked up, you can give them a little bit of a bump, but you cannot stay hooked to that bumper of the car in front of you. Also, the leader has to start on the green flag. Now, it's not as much of an advantage here as opposed to like a 1.5 mile speedway in the NASCAR style ovals, but the leader cannot go early. He can't tell the guy behind him, hey, we're going to go a little bit earlier to try to pull away. He has to go when a green flag is thrown by the sim. And also, if you are leading the line, if you are the lead car on the bottom of high, you can't be dragging the brakes. You have to be full on the gas 100%, and that way that could avoid some checking up back in line. So those are the 3 primary rules that they have reestablished or put back into place here to try to clean up the racing here for these final 5 races.
Thanks, Evan. Now, Joe, let's talk a little bit about the championship. It's pretty fierce up near the top there with Frank Lucilia, the third, still managing to hang on to a lead.
Yeah, it's incredibly close up there. As you said, he's got the lead by about 4 points, 266 points on the board right now for Frank. And Brandon Chubirko's trailing him, and he has closed that gap significantly, up to 262 right now. And then only one more point now, down to get to Rod Flag in third at 261. So those top three guys all separated by 5 points. This championship could take a complete swing at any moment in this race. Donnie Giartano is not too far behind as well at 255 points, 11 points shy of Frank. And then in fifth, we got Mark Jorgensen, 26 points back. So he's still in this thing too with a lot of races to go. In fact, there's only about 33 points separating the top 7 guys. We've got Rodney Wofford and Shane McEachin in there too. So keep an eye on quite a number of people as this race goes on, because there's still a lot of guys in this thing.
Absolutely, and quite frankly, any one of those top 10 guys could win these races. Although it seems like towards the end of a race, the top guys seem to find something and rise to the top. We're talking about guys like Brandon Chubirko, Rod Flag, Mark Jorgensen has done very well. Dana Osborne is somebody that I would really like to see win a race. He did win quite a few races in the B main series, but he has yet to win a race in the A main series. Well, folks, we still have a fair amount of time left on the board for practice, so that means we can talk a lot more. Evan, why don't you tell the folks a little bit about the cars that they use in the series?
Yeah, we're going to be running all 3 variations that are available on iRacing of the NASCAR Cup car, the Gen 6 car. So that's going to be the Chevrolet SS, the Ford Fusion, the Toyota Camry. And they've been in iRacing for quite some time now, so the adjustment phase has kind of gone away. These guys are now used to these machines. They have a lot of horsepower. They do have a lot of draft. If you race maybe a B car or a truck here as far as the NASCAR stock cars, it's a little bit harder to get hooked up. These machines really do rely on that 2-car tandem. Now again, they have taken that away, so we're going to see a lot more pack racing, and that is what we saw in the last race that you mentioned there, Richard, on the 22nd. It was very clean. It looked very calm in the opening laps, but we were too wide a lot of the time, so these guys are going to be forced to work the draft a little bit more. Pit strategy, it is 47 laps. We have seen drivers in previous races that had a little bit shorter amount of laps, I think 40 lap races. We saw a couple guys be able to stretch it on fuel with the help of a couple of yellow flags. Now, obviously the drivers are going to have to see how that plays into effect here, because you're going to have to calculate how many they would need in order to make it on fuel. But we see a couple of cautions. You can expect the guys to come down, maybe top off, or even under green flag conditions come down. Tires are really not that important. You might throw 2 on there simply because that's going to take the same amount of time that it does to get that machine full of fuel. But other than that, you do have 2 quick fixes, 47 laps. You could call it a shootout race. That is still a lot of laps. It's a fair number around these super speedways. You throw a couple cautions into there, and this is a pretty decently length run. And actually, a lot of the guys on track right now in practice are practicing that pit road entry under green flag conditions. But again, only 2 quick fixes, so you can't go out there and be reckless. If you do get caught up in something that's out of your control, you kind of have 2 mulligans, we could say, that you can use, but these drivers would rather sway away from having to use those and keep those things clean and green and be able to battle it out and hopefully see a green flag finish here, because those are always exciting on these super speedways.
Yeah, well, we're only about 2.5 minutes away from the start of this race, and it looks like, with only 4 rounds to go after this one, of course makes it 5 to go, so we are starting to run out of races, and the guys who need to get points, Joe, they'll really need to step up tonight if they want to get right up to the front. We did talk about quick fixes, Joe. Why don't you tell the folks what that actually means in iRacing terms?
Yeah, so for those not familiar with the iRacing service, which is what this race is run on, basically when we talk about a quick fix, it means if you have any damage at all on your car that's been registered, that when they come into their pit stall, they will basically get a fresh car. It still counts the same amount of fuel, same tires on it, but it's like they put the same amount of fuel and the same tires on a completely new car, and you're back out and it drives just like it was right off the lot. Now, that's obviously a good thing if you have a lot of damage and you need to get back out there and get back with the field. However, if you have just, a little bit too hard of a bump in the bump draft or something like that, you can't control whether or not you get it. So if you've registered a little bit of damage and you take your pit stop, you're gone one of your quick fixes. So it's both a blessing and a curse. Guys have to be wary of how rough they're playing out there.
Yeah, that's quite correct. Well, we're getting very close now. The practice is just finishing up. Bear in mind, of course, that the grid is already set from previous events which lead up to this A-main event. So we don't see the grid at this point. As soon as the practice finishes and they start to grid up for the race, we will be able to tell you exactly who is in what position for the race. But really, really close to the start now. The guys are just playing around. They love to do that here, Evan. You'll see during the final minutes of practice, they bump into each other. They go for spins and all kinds of things.
Yeah, they're just trying to get, some of the jitters out, have a little bit more fun before it's time to go to work. I want to make quick mention of some times here in the warm-up session as we come down to the final 10 seconds. The top two, obviously that being a tandem that got that lap of Josh Hanner and Mark Jorgensen Jr., are half a second quicker than any of the other laps that anybody else had put down. So let's just keep an eye. Maybe that 5 and the 81 are going to be starting somewhere close to each other here in the race, because if they're able to put down lap times like that, they could be one of those dominant duos that we see up front and battling for that checkered flag later on.
Well, the checkered flag for practice has indeed flown, and the gridding is starting right now. They normally have a minute or two to grid, and then the pace car will come out and we will get a start to round number 8. The pace car is now on track, and the yellow flag is still out for gridding. So the excitement must be building right now in the hearts and in the minds of these guys who are about to race. So we should see the grid right now. Why don't we run through the grid for the folks?
Absolutely. Brandon Shabirko is going to start on pole, so that puts him in a good position for this championship run. Rodney Wofford is starting on the outside of the front row, with Josh Hanner on the inside of row 2. Then in 4th we have Jimmy Todd, followed by Lee Herron starting in the 5th position. Sean Turner starts in 6th, followed by Austin Carver in 7th, Jared Haggerty in 8th, Mark Jorgensen Jr. in 9th, and Frank Puzzilia, our championship leader, is all the way down in 10th, Evan.
Yeah, Dana Osborne, again, looking for a solid finish here and trying to get to victory lane, is going to be starting 11th. Chris Jennings will start alongside him in 12th. Donnie Giratano starting in 13th. Alongside him, David Schwitma in the number 15 machine. Shane McEachin, one more back in 15th position. Alongside him is Larry Camp. Greg Hooks will start 17th. Logan Doherty going to be starting in 18th. Remote Evans 19th. And rounding out the top 20 guys is going to be Jason Altmans in that number 97.
Yep, and there are 24 cars in this race registered. So in 21st place we have Ray Rittenauer, the second. In 22nd place Ken Connolly. 23rd place Rod Flagg. He will have a bit of work to do being up in the championship. He will really need to try and get to the front, but we've seen him do that before. And last but not least is Dawn Artman. Well, folks, they are coming up now to turn number 4. They're on the backstretch right now, so this is imminently start. We will have a start imminently is what I mean to say. As the pace car comes around that final turn, they will approach the tri-oval. Bearing in mind the rules, they must go on the green flag only, and once they do start, the lead car must be 100% on the gas pedal. So now they come around into the final turn. The pace car will pull off momentarily. Let's have a good look at this pace car as it ducks down. Not quite yet. Everyone keyed up. The 3 and the 7 cars next to each other. One on the inside, the 3 car of Brandon Chaberko, on the 7 on the outside. Just behind them, Josh Hanmer and Jimmy Todd, which is a new name for me. There the pace car ducks off. The 3 starts to hold them back. he can't go before the green flag, so he's holding them back. That's Brandon Chaberko in the number 3 machine on his outside, the 7 car of Rodney Wofford. The green flag flies and they take off, and the 3 gets a lovely clean start. The 7 stays on his outside, there's no space for him to move inside. The 5 comes up behind Brandon Chaberko, the 22 behind him. So a nice clean start at the front here. What's happening at the back, Joe?
Well, I noticed Sean Turner immediately tried to go 3 wide, and he got hung out to dry as he drops back a couple positions. Now he's finally back in line. The number 048 has lost at least 2 positions, I think, out of that.
Okay, but at least they're all nice and clean on lap number 1 of the start. Brandon Chaberko with Josh Hanna in 2nd place. Now they start to pull away just a small gap there from the guys. Remembering, of course, they cannot push through the tri-oval section.
Yeah, so you'll see the 7 machine was on the back bumper, the 22 of Lee Heron, he had to back off. The 22 actually went to the outside. And it looks like, oh, he's going to hook the fire. The 7's in the wall. Josh Hanner. And caution is going to fly. It is the 5 of Josh Hanner. Hard in the wall. And guys already under the caution flag. It looks like that was limited to about 2-3 cars. That could have been a lot worse as that was up at the front of the field. But that 22 got left out to dry and just tried to come back down in line and hook that 5 machine hard into the fence.
Yeah, that was pretty nasty there in the opening laps. In fact, 2nd lap of the race, and already we do have a caution as we watch on replay. The incident taking place right in front of us, car spinning right out there, very, very bad. He goes right down in amongst a whole bunch of other cars, and he's still spinning. Wow, that is a pretty well over and done for him in terms of damage. Other cars coming up the track, going down as well. Probably about 6 or 7 cars involved in that one, Evan.
It looks like Don Artman, the number 99, has some pretty severe engine damage. That thing was smoking for quite some time. And there was another wreck, guys. Caution flag flew for an incident, and then the 99 got turned. The 15, the 99, the 22. This looks like it may have even been under caution, but something happened down in 1 and 2. No, after the 5 was in the wall, it looked like everybody had gotten through, and then some of the guys behind the pack, looks like the 15 machine comes down. That's David Schutma, and it looks like he comes down. He hooks the 99 of John Artman, and that causes almost a secondary wreck. That nails the 22 who was up against the fence, so that actually gets quite a few more cars. A couple more guys piled into it down there going into the corner as they were trying to get around all that up top.
Yeah, and Don Artman we see is coming into the pit lane right now, and a few cars, David Schutma, Josh Hanna, Lee Heron, they are either taking tows or they have already retired from this race, Joe.
Yeah, what this does for a lot of these guys that got caught up in this is that, you know, even though it kind of puts them behind the 8 ball early on, it's probably better to have it happen early in the race because there's more chances to try and make it back up, especially if there's a caution later on and they can get the lucky dog to get their lap back if they want to lap down. But again, the disadvantage of this is that they have 1 less spare car now. So at the same time, it's like, thank goodness it happened early, and oh man, why did this have to happen early?
Yeah, well, that's true. You know, it is so important in these races to qualify well, to get out front, and to be leading or being close to the front, because it always seems the case, Evan, that either in the mid-pack or at the rear of the field, we have these incidents.
Yeah, that one was up front, and you know, if you're racing for the lead, you're going to be going for it a little bit more, but it is typically the 3 wide is going to be happening excluding the final 5 laps, because at that point it's game on up front. But it's that mid-pack where if there's a checkup, they're the ones that have to adapt to it. If they can't get on the brakes hard enough, someone's going to tuck out a line and try to get some space. That's how you get that kind of cluster there in the middle of the pack, kind of forces some 3 wide. And typically, most of those incidents you see are going to be middle towards the rear of the field. Now, that comes as a disadvantage because some drivers are going to try to play a strategy of let's hang back. We'll stay back. We'll kind of hang out at the tail end of the lead lap guys and try not to be involved in anything. Now you do that, you could get caught up in an incident because you have to drive through it. So a lot of these guys have to make a decision. Like Brandon Chaburko right now, he's saying, I want to be up front, I want to be leading laps. We've seen other races where we've seen guys that are top 5 cars ride back with a drafting partner, and then towards the end of the run, maybe 20 to go, then they start to move through the field. So it's always risk versus reward. You really don't have a lot of control over your own fate here at these super speedways.
Never a truer word was spoken there. It can be a little bit of a lottery, and I do know that sort of in the middle of the season there was some unhappiness amongst the drivers about the way that some people do drive here. But as you say, this is super speedway racing. It is mentioned at every big race in real life even that the big one does happen here, Joe. So you know, you takes your chances, I guess.
Yeah, and that's just kind of the nature of the beast when you're racing super speedway racing. If you're not, you know, willing to try and swallow that fact, then super speedway racing is simply not for you, because it lends itself to pack racing, as Evan mentioned earlier in the broadcast, and that just is prone to chain reactions. There's the high speeds and the close confines means there's little room for reaction time, so you can't really avoid that. The best you can do is strategize, like you mentioned, about possibly hanging back and things like that. But other than that, you're kind of in it for the lottery. That's half the fun, I guess you could say.
Yeah, mind you, having said that, some guys in this series do know how to play this game very, very well. When I say play this game, that means take their chances when they need to, and also to hang back and wait for something, wait for an opportunity, I guess, when they need to. Guys like Brandon Chaburko, he has 2 wins already in the series, and Frank Basilia III, he's got 2 wins. Rod Flagg's another one, he's got a win. He did start and has started today from near the rear of the field. He's currently up to 18th place. Brandon Chaburko, in fact, still leading this with Jimmy Todd on his outside. The pace car is out there, but the lights are off as they go around to the backstretch. We should see a start momentarily as they come. Sorry, I miscalculated that they're actually coming through into the tri-oval right now. So we will get a start very soon with Brandon Chaburko, Jimmy Todd on the outside, Rodney Wofford, Frank Basilia III on the inside there in the number 94. So getting ready for a start right now. The pace car ducks off. Brandon has to hold them back till the green flag according to the rules, as we have mentioned previously. We've got the number 7 behind Brandon. We've got the 57 there of Jared Hegarty behind Frank Basilia. These guys are about to start. The green flag flies. The 3 car takes off. The 7 hot pursuit behind him. The 94 behind him on the inside. On the outside, we've got Jimmy Todd and Jared Hegarty in the 57 car. Nice clean start once again. Nice 2 wide racing at this point in time. Joe?
Yeah, I saw Austin Carver saw an opportunity to get on the low line, and that number 16 immediately was down there to try to get himself on the low line. I'm assuming that is the desirable one at this point. And look at the pack up at the front. These guys are nice and tucked in together. Everybody's trying to get maybe that top group to just split away a little bit to ease some of that pressure off.
Yep, and just behind them in the mid-pack at this point in time, we've got guys like Mark Jorgensen, Austin Carver, Dana Osborne moved up to 8th place, so he's doing well. I believe he qualified around that place as well, Evan. Now they go 3 wide at the front.
Yeah, that's one car there in the middle, Jared Haggerty. He was pushing the 18 and Jimmy Todd. They weren't getting anywhere. Now the 18 is kind of stranded. He's going to go all the way to the back of this lead draft of race cars because nobody's going out to that 3rd lane. He's going to cycle in well outside of the top 14 as he's going to go in behind the 98 of Greg Hooks. However, the 94 of Frank Basilia has stepped out of line. He was on the inside. He looked to the top. Now he's going to dive down back in line. That leaves the 57 Haggerty hanging. It looks like the 28 machine is going to try to help him out, Shane McKeechan. And now McKeechan going to look down to the bottom, and everybody tucks down to the inside lane as far as the top 10 drivers for a moment, and now back out to the outside goes Basilia and back in line again.
Yeah, but Basilia and Brandon Tuberco, for that matter, don't mind grabbing the outside lanes and having a go there. We see another guy, the 16 car, right up at the top at the moment. That's Austin Carver, a little bit stranded there as everyone streams through. There's a little bit of playing around, I would say, for position on the inside and the outside near the front of the field at this point in time, but everybody racing a great line at this stage, and no sign of a caution right now as we see Donny Garetano go down into the inside, taking a gap that was left there for him. Leaves his partner a little bit stranded there. Partner starts to close up on the front two on the outside lane. So this good racing, I must say, right here, Joe.
Yeah, and I think that move by the 16 to drop back was intentional. I'm not sure if he was blinking on other people's screens, but I know he was blinking quite a bit on mine. So I think he might be having some connection problems, and he's doing the gentlemanly thing and just kind of getting out of people's way, getting towards the back of the pack so that he doesn't cause an accident.
Yeah, and I guess we should explain that for the viewers as well. This is iRacing. The internet connection is critical for a successful race, and if your car starts to blink, as Joe mentioned, what that means is in fact that your car is losing connection momentarily with the server, and other cars do not see you as a steady image on the screen. They see you flashing a little bit. But back to the racing now, Evan, as things are pretty tight up the front here.
Yeah, we're side by side. It's just an update. Austin Carver did come over the radio. He was talking to some of the other drivers, and they did let him know that he blinked out a little bit, and especially at the front of the field, you can't have that. So he did go up high, kind of let off the gas a little bit, has dropped back. You guys talked about connection, just to kind of give everybody a little bit of idea. If you know the iRacing terms that talk about ping, most of these drivers sitting on the ping, maybe a 66 or a 100. Austin Carver's ping is in excess of 1,000. So definitely having some connection issues. He has dropped back to the point where he has actually lost that lead draft. So if he wants any hope of being in contention moving forward, not only does he have to hope that he sees the yellow, but obviously he's going to have to hope his connection gets better.
Just in front of Donny Garetano has left the field down on the apron. No caution flying at this point.
It's Mark Jorgensen, and he's not happy over the radio about that one. Has some words for the driver, that 57.
Yeah, the 57. Sorry, go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, as we watched the replay, I was trying to figure out what exactly happened there, and it looked like a checkup just in front of him caught him off guard and sent him in almost a spin.
Yeah, that looked like a little bit of bumper grab because he wasn't quite to the inside, but that 57 moved on the nose and it just kind of hooked that 81 around. And Jorgensen obviously upset. He's had to take a tow back to pit road. His night is essentially done. And now caution, trouble.
Caution flies.
Big
Big trouble towards the rear of the field. What are you seeing there, Joe?
The number 28 of Shane McEachin actually gets hit another time. It looks like he ran into, or something happened with a 94, and he was sliding up in the tri-oval, and those two went for a wild ride up through the air. From there, 28 slid back onto the track and then got hit by, it looks like, Ray Rittenor, the number 87. After everything had already stopped, Ray must have been a little bit blind that he couldn't see that coming.
Yeah, and we were still watching the replay of Mark Jorgensen doing a dance down on the apron, and this other incident happened towards the rear of the field. So once again, the pace car is on track. It's going to take a little while for these guys to sort themselves out. We need to sort ourselves out as well for a moment or two. So why don't we take a short break, and we'll come back with all the action while we review this incident. Welcome back, folks, to the iSuperSpeedway.com Season 2, round number 8. And we saw a little bit of madness, Joe, in the moments after the pace car came out for an incident involving Mark Jorgensen. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so Mark Jorgensen got surprised by a checkup in front of him and got hooked by a car and slammed into the inside wall, and that destroyed his engine, so they had to bring out a caution for that. But as they were doing that, up in the tri-oval on almost completing the next lap, Jared Haggerty and Frank Busilia just got into each other in the tri-oval, and poor Frank, that sent him upwards up into Shane McEachin, and they just absolutely flew through the air after hitting the wall. And thankfully it was just those two involved in that incident, at least until the poor 87 came up a little bit blind and had nowhere to go to try and avoid Shane, and so he got hit on that as well. So we've got a number of cars that are lapped down, including it looks like Josh Hanner, Frank Busilia, Shane McEachin, Jimmy Todd, Lee Herron, David Schudema, and Mark Jorgensen Jr. and Ray Rittner all are laps down at this point.
Well, just my timing and scoring showing here that Jimmy Todd and Ray Rittner, in fact, are not on track or not in the simulation at this point. They may well have decided that they have too much damage and are out of the race. Time will tell. Now, the current scoring shows that Rodney Wofford is now in control of this race. Brandon Jaberko still in second place there, as still got his position pretty well sewn up there since the beginning of this race. Jared Haggerty, who was involved in that incident we just spoke about, he's come out in third position at this point in time. And then, of course, Logan Doherty on the second row on the outside there in the 64 car. Greg Hooks and Donny Garantano still in there. Dana Osborne has moved up to 7th place. Sean Turner and Ramon Evans. And in 10th place, Ken Connolly. Our league organizer, who is Rod Flagg, has moved up to 14th place from a near last start. So he's gradually moving forward as well as the race laps wind down. Currently we have 31 laps remaining. They are on lap number 16 as I speak to you. The lights are out on the pace car. So Evan, what do you think after this restart? Will they settle down, or will it be madness as usual?
I think if we're going to see a longer green flag run, it would be at this point. I mean, we're going to be going green. It's still going to be 31 laps to go across the stripe. That's still a fair amount of time. Once you get down to, 15, 10, the whole cautions breed cautions in there, I think that really kicks in, because people are not going to want to lift as much. They're going to try to push those bump drafting rules in the corners to the limit to try to get whatever they can. I think with this many laps to go, we should be okay. Now again, it's those checkups that get you. The fact that you can't push, you have to keep dragging the brake, you have to keep lifting on that accelerator. That's what causes all those issues mid-pack. So you can never really for sure be safe on any incidents happening at these kind of speedways.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I'm just wondering whether the situation that they faced with of having to lift, particularly through the tri-oval, can cause the cars to become a little bit unsettled, and thereby, in fact, increase the chances of an incident. But that's for the organizers to work out and the drivers to work out. Currently, we are ready for a restart. They are entering the tri-oval as I speak, and the number 7 car of Rodney Wofford on the inside must go on the green flag. Brandon Jaberko on his outside. The second row, Jared Haggerty and Logan Doherty in the 50-64 machine. I think that is a bit of a color situation there. However, now the 7 is in control, waiting on the green flag to fly. Green flag will fly any moment now. Brandon Jaberko on his outside. Will he try to go forward immediately and take the first position, or will he wait? The green flag flies, the 7 takes off. Brandon Jaberko doesn't get a great start. He decides to fall in behind the 7, On the outside, we still have the 64, the 57 of Jared Hegarty now pushes forward on the inside and leaves the 64 on the outside. Up comes the number 2 of Donny Garetano to help out the 64. And on the inside, we have 1 or 2 cars taking up the available spots, or the available space, I should say. And things start to settle down. Let's hope we have that green flag run you spoke about, Evan.
Yeah, and that 3 machine in Chaburko, again, staying as close to the back bumper as he can without staying hooked on it. He's like lifted just a little bit, was able to leave a little bit of a gap, but didn't drop back far enough so that as soon as they come off the corner, back to the back bumper, and they could get right back going. So the front of this field has kind of been separated into a little bit of tandemina. I mean, the 7-3 front, it was the 57 and 98, and then 2 wide from them on back. But towards the tail end of this lead lap group, again, right now, 16 machines on the lead lap, a little bit more pack racing, but the field a lot more spread out than we had seen in previous restarts.
Yeah, and I noticed, Joe, that Mark Jorgensen has obviously taken a new car out of the garage, and he's back in there towards the rear of the field, but he is a really, really good driver, so we expect him to move forward a little bit. But currently, all cars, we're looking at something like 22 out of 24 cars on track, only 2 out of this race.
Yeah, in fact, speaking of the back of the pack, don't forget Frank Busilia sitting currently in 18th, even though he's farther back there. He is the leader of our championship, and we've seen him pull this trick before. Watch for maybe just a bit of conservatism until we get a caution to be able to get his lap back, because right now he has no reason to get up with a lot of these guys other than trying to maybe get ahead of the other lapped cars so that he can get that lap back. But right now Frank is just kind of holding back amongst all these guys that are in the back in their own little pack here and not really doing anything too risky, so he's not out of this game yet.
Yeah, I know that Frank Busilia has chosen to go to the outside, maybe getting a little bit of air. We've got to remember as well, Evan, that these cars do heat up pretty quick on these really fast runs through this very, very fast super speedway. And the cars do heat up quite a bit as they run close to each other.
Yeah, they have those grills taped up to a certain extent. The more grill tape on there means the more speed, the more downforce you're going to get, but it also means the engines are going to get a lot hotter. You cannot stay tucked up behind the guy in front of you, not getting any fresh air to it, or you're going to blow that engine, and it will come up on you very quickly. It'll creep up on you and bite you, especially, again, we have a little bit higher temperatures right now than normal at 79 and 82% humidity, so it's a hot one out there. In this race, in this sim right now, the way the weather settings are. But the 94 Busilia is the 3rd car 1 lap down. Him, Hanner, and McEachin. You actually see McEachin and Hanner side by side just in front of him. Those 3 cars are battling to be that 1st car 1 lap down.
Yes, that's right. And the lucky dog situation will kick in if there is another caution, and whoever is the leading car of the cars that are a lap down will get to go around and get back on the lead lap. As we see now, Frank Busilia being helped out by it looks like Lee Heron in the 22 there. Can't quite make out the number on. He's inside the 28. These guys are just a little way off the main pack, and they are a lap down, so they got a bit of work to do. Up front there, the pack is very, very tight. As we see a caution spinning, cars spinning out everywhere, cars going down to the bottom. There's a car on its lid at the moment, and another one getting hit by Frank Busilia again. Ugly stuff once again, Evan.
And that was right at the front. It was Rodney Wofford, who was riding around as our race leader. Looks like the 57 behind him just decided to make it 3 wide, wanted to go to the lead and went down and just came up a little bit, hooked Busilia, and in trying to correct it, he blocked that whole bottom lane. So the cars that were able to get around it were the ones on the high side right at the front. Other than that, there was a point the whole racetrack got blocked, and that's at least over half of the field. A couple cars up and over, flipping down that front straightaway. A lot of blown engines and back to a lot of torn up sheet metal, and we go back under yellow. And a lot of these incidents, guys, that we're seeing up front, contrary to maybe what we normally see, are happening right up at the front of the field.
Absolutely correct. And just watching it on the replay, you can see the 7 actually gets turned. He half corrects, manages to hold his car, but then slides up the track a little bit and gets into another car as well. And then that starts a whole chain reaction. Obviously, when you have these accidents happening at the front of the field, Joe, there's no place for the cars behind them to go.
Yeah, you really you have no option other than just maybe keep your foot in it, or if you have enough time that you can see it happening in front of you, to lift and find yourself a lane. But there's very little you can do. I'll tell you what, though, the number 3 of Brandon Chibirko, he must have rubbed himself in 4-leaf clovers or something before this race, because you can see in the replay just how close Wofford gets as he's correcting in the tri-oval and is inches away from Chibirko. And he comes out scot-free once again.
Yeah, he's got some snake oil there that he has a bath in before the races, by the looks of things. But I do want to mention here, Evan, that Rod Flagg has come now into the 4th position. That puts him on the 2nd row on the outside on this restart. So what a drive from Rod.
Yeah, and Rod Flagg, when you think dominant names, you're going to think Busilia, Chibirko. Rod Flagg is in this championship hunt, and you don't really want to call him a sleeper, but he does it a lot more quietly, we could say, than Chibirko and Busilia. Rod Flagg entering tonight has a win on the season and has 4 top 5s. He's tied with the most out of any drivers for top 5s, but he's only 5 points out of this thing. So Rod Flagg sitting right now, if it were to end right now, would be sent to gain the most out of those top 3 in the championship, but still a long way to go, guys. We're actually going to take halfway this next time by the start-finish line. So everything that we've seen a lot of position changing in this first half of the race. The same thing is going to happen from this point on. So nobody can really be comfortable where they are at. Normally you want to say the most comfortable position is P1. We've seen that theory been thrown out the window here tonight with the incidents happening up at the front of the pack. So I'd have to say, I don't think many people are safe here at this point.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I mean, an accident or an incident can happen anywhere in the whole pack. I do take my hat off to Rod Flagg and his team, though. They are trying different things to try and eliminate the cautions. But, you know, when you've got a bunch of fast drivers like this, Joe, everyone fighting hard for just that one extra place on the ladder of the championship, and all of them being, you know, really good drivers, I have to say, there's always going to be a great chance or more than 50% chance that you're going to have a lot of cautions.
Yeah, and you know, Rod proves one thing that's an old truism about racing, is to finish first you must finish. And that goes with championships as well. Just keep finishing races. If you get into trouble, push hard and try and stay in the thing. You know, obviously you want to make safe choices after that, but you can't sit back and throw the towel in. And Rod Flagg's kind of been doing that throughout this season. That's kept him in it. You see his one win to Frank and Brandon's 2. And that's probably the big difference there, is just him making sure and getting consistency out of his continual finishes.
Yeah, that's correct. Now, I want to have a look at the pit strategy situation here. We are currently about halfway through this race, Evan. I do note that most of the drivers have taken at least one stop. Drivers who are currently near the front at the moment are showing as having had one stop. But a bunch of them have been in the pit lane a few times. Frank Basilia's got one stop. Chris Jennings 3 by the looks of it. So a bunch of them have had more than the one stop that you would hope for in a race of this length. We also note that Josh Hanna is currently sitting in the pits. A couple of guys approaching the pits. So what's the strategy like from this point onwards? I mean, you're halfway through the race. Whatever you've got now, you should be able to go to the end with.
Yeah, and one of the situations and something that we saw the drivers practicing in the warm-up session was entering the pits under green flag conditions. Now, these races are rather short. If we went caution-free, you would see that scenario. The fact that we have had these yellows, the fact that nearly every single car has had to come down pit road, let alone for fuel, but for some sort of damage repair to this extent, has almost taken that element out of it. You're going to want to try to maintain whatever track position you have now and take it by corner, and you almost have to kind of accept the fact and approach this with a mentality that there's going to be a couple more cautions. If you see cautions at the beginning portion of the race when things are calmer per se than they are going to be in the final 20-lap stretch of the race, you have to anticipate a couple more yellows from this point moving forward. So you have to try to get as much position as you can off of these restarts, which can in turn cause those cautions that you're trying to avoid. So you're going to have to be aggressive. I think at this point track position is going to be key because these guys are going to have to ride out a few more of these incidents before they get a chance to take a shot at it here down for that checkered.
Yep, well said. And let's just quickly run through the order. So currently Greg Hooks is in the lead of this race. Now I am noticing here, Joe, Greg Hooks and Logan Doherty are the only two drivers who have not been on pit road yet. So they're showing with 0 pit stops. So that's a bit strange. One would have thought by now that they might have gone in on this caution at least to top up with fuel and get themselves set for the rest of the race in case it goes green all the way.
Yeah, it's an unusual strategy, but with the way things have played out, I mean, it's not really a death sentence yet for them. I wouldn't be surprised if we got at least one more caution in this thing. Like Evan mentioned, we got quite a bit of race to go. Now, when you mentioned that, you know, how far up Rod Flag had moved, I went back to look at the replay once again, and boy, talk about, you know, a bit of luck and a bit of skill. He really just spotted the right point to go in that last wreck because he was pretty far back, so he had to go through all that. And even though he was with Frank Busilia and Frank ran into trouble, Rod didn't. He checked up at the right time, looked at where everything was kind of moving, and just found himself a gap and went straight through it. And that is a skill that that you have to learn after a bit of practice and a bit of instinct, actually. And boy, Rod Flag used it to incredible effect, and I'm sure he has throughout the season to be able to get the results he has.
Absolutely. And I tell you what, it does take skill to try and avoid those wrecks, but most of the time, Evan, it's just pure luck, hey?
For sure. I mean, sometimes you're going to be going through there as the lights actually go off at a pace car. So 1 lap from now, we'll be set to take the green flag. So just about 2 minutes till we get back underway. But sometimes there'll be a big wreck in front of you, and you're just going to close the eyes, and the seas will part in front of you, and you'll get right through. Sometimes, and like Joe said, it does take some skill. You'll get used to it. You get in a couple of wrecks. You get some experience, we'll call it, under your belt, and you'll see the cars sliding around. You're going to start to be able to anticipate where those cars are going to slide. You're going to be able to kind of point and shoot and try to find a way through that. But again, at the end of the day, at super speedways especially, it's sometimes a lot better to be lucky than good, and surviving these melees a lot of time comes down to just being in the right spot or the wrong spot at the time.
Yeah, they say whenever you're in trouble, head downwards, but that's not always the case. We've seen a lot of guys go down on the apron in these wrecks, so that might not always be the safest place. Sometimes being right up at the top near the wall is the safest. Anyway, as you mentioned, we're getting ready for another restart. I just want to say quickly that I did note that the administrator has turned off the chat during the caution. Obviously, a few words flying around, not unusual in a situation where there have been so many cautions. But getting ready for this restart, Greg Hooks in control of the field up the front. Logan Doherty in the 64 machine on his outside. The second row is the 97 of Jason Altmans. We haven't mentioned his name tonight, but there he is in third place at this point in time, and Rod Flag on his outside in fourth place. Then we have the third row of Larry Camp and Brandon Chaberko. So these guys are the 6 that we will look as we watch the pace car duck off now. The 98 of Greg Hooks holds them back till the green flag. The green flag will fly any second now. In fact, there the green flag flies, and he goes immediately on his outside. Logan Doty gets a better start than does the 98, and has an opportunity to go to the front. He has the 23 behind him, pushing him, whereas the 97 is behind the 98 of Greg Hooks. So once again, a good start at the front. What are you seeing at the back, Joe?
Well, I was actually kind of watching the front myself to kind of see how that would unfold. I'm wondering if Logan is going to get a black flag for jumping the start since he was on the outside. I'm not sure how that works with the leader, but he did not, in fact, get the jump on him so that he could get up to the front. In fact, now Greg Hooks is back up into the lead. He's got a good run with Altman's pushing him.
I believe that once the green flag flies, you are entitled to even overtake if you're on the outside lane. To overtake the lead car, but that is as it may be. We have a race developing once again. The two lines are forming as we see normally. No cars trying to duck onto the inside, although we see Logan Doherty having a look there, trying to get onto the inside lane, but deciding to stay out. Even the situation that I always find quite strange is that some guys prefer running on the outside lane. Maybe it's safer or less incident prone up there.
And I think that may change now that we have the new draft rules in effect, because if you're pushing in the corner, the inside is kind of where you ride around. If you're on the outside, it's the passing lane. Like, look up front right now, Chaburko trying to make a move, and he's pushing that rule. I mean, he's right on the back bumper of that 22. Now he gets back to making contact off the corner. The outside lane, I personally have always felt, is I don't want to be up there, because if there's a wreck, I have a concrete wall on my right-hand side. I'd rather be on the bottom. You have a little bit of an apron to kind of dive off to. But the outside lane, you could call it the passing lane here. However, the 22 right there jumps down in line. The 3 Chaburko stuck. Oh, lap traffic. Jorgensen on the bottom. They're going to squeeze by for now. That was close, as I'm sure they were expecting Jorgensen to be high. He did hold it on the yellow line, but a lot of cars that were tucked up behind somebody didn't even see him coming.
Wow, great heads up from everybody in that situation, especially some of the guys in the pack that were just completely unsighted in that.
Absolutely, and you know, that is a real big no-no in any type of oval race. Normally, and Evan would say, you head up to the top, and you say you allow all the cars to pass you on the inside, as we have another caution.
The 81 of Mark Jorgensen Jr. is around, and the 22 machine coming over the radio, that's Lee Herron, and Lee Herron was leading, so he may have just been celebrating the fact that he was in the lead at the point of caution. But guys, a very strange looking incident. Mark Jorgensen Jr. All by himself again. He had just lost his lap and was riding through 3 and 4 by himself, and spun it at a corner number 2. I'll let you guys call that one.
I was going to say, it looks like he ducks onto the apron just momentarily. I wonder if that just unsettled the car. Maybe he had, because he had just come back out from getting damage repaired. I wonder if maybe the car, just the combination of those two things is what sent him on that spin. But as far as the 22 shouting, I think it's actually, Lee was a lap down. I think it's because he was getting his lap back. He was happy about that.
Yeah, that's correct. Lee Herron is a lap down, and that is a really strange incident from Mark Jorgensen, who is a great driver and wins a lot of races in the official series and runs this car in the official series. So that was a strange one there, but the whole incident is strange because he should not have been down on the apron with the rest of the pack coming up behind him. He should have been up on the outside. But those were his choices, and now he finds himself a lap down again. In fact, 3 laps down right now.
Yeah, and he had the 99, and I want to talk about this for a moment. That's Don Artman. Don Artman is a lead lap car. So Don Artman went by. He was clear by a couple car lengths, but I mean, you got to feel that maybe Jorgensen's a little frustrated. He is a couple laps down, but I mean, I mean, he's able to run that machine in packs of 2, 3, 4 wide even at times, and hold the line. And it seems kind of strange that machine would go to the apron, and that's a long back straightaway. You get down below the yellow line, you can slowly creep your way back up. That wheel just goes hard to the right, hard to the left, and goes around. So not sure what you guys want to make a call on that one, but looked a little fishy there at a corner number 2.
Or would you like a tinfoil hat there? Maybe.
Maybe a little bit of poison oak. He had to itch it. Who knows?
Well, look, we are the broadcasters and the commentators. We tell it the way we see it. Sometimes we are right. Well, most times we are right, but sometimes we get it wrong. So we will not be too hard on Mark Jorgensen, because we know the talent of this guy. And now we see them all back again on another caution. I'm not quite sure what the caution count is right now, but I would imagine this would be the 5th or 6th caution, Joe.
Yeah, and I think a caution would be a good opportunity for perhaps us to take a short break.
Absolutely. Let's go to a break, and we'll come back very shortly with about 15 or probably about 12 laps to go. Welcome back, folks, to the iSuperSpeedway.com Super Speedway Series. We are at Talladega, and we are on lap number 34 out of 47. So the laps are winding down. The pace car lights are out. We will get a start on the next time by the line, which will be very soon. We see the pace car now leading them into the tri-oval. Pace car will duck off very soon. Greg Hooks in control of the race on its outside. Brandon Tuberco, Jason Altman's on the inside second row, and Dana Osborne, I like the sound of that, on the outside second row. The pace car goes off. Greg Hooks waits for the green flag to fly, gets the green flag just about now. Green flag flies, and they are away. Greg Hooks on his outside, Brandon Tuberco, they both get away with a really good start. On the inside, Jason Altman's in the 97, just behind. Dana Osborne on the outside, about to try and hook up with Brandon Tuberco. No, he doesn't. He ducks to the inside. Brandon Tuberco left on the outside by himself. Evan.
Yeah, the 3 machines trying to hang on. The 8's going to work with them. Dana Osborne to the outside. They're going to try to get a little bit of a bump draft here going down the back straightaway and now into 3. The 8's going to have to ease off as they enter the corner, so that's going to kill that run that they were getting. That gives the advantage back down to the inside. It is Hooks and the 97 Voltman starting to pull clear of that outside lane.
And just behind them we have Logan Doherty and Austin Carver. The 16 machine of Austin Carver on the inside, and Logan Doherty there as well. So getting down to the whoa, and Brandon Tuberco disappears and comes back, blinking out really badly there, Joe.
Oh, this is not good. This is not the news that he needs right now. Some of the guys in farther back are actually getting a lot more aggressive right now, so I wonder if we're going to be seeing more cautions. I know Frank Busili in the number 94 was weaving across the track to try and find gaps as people were accelerating and others were checking up, and he used it to pretty good effect as he's worked his way up through the field. But he is still 2 laps down, so he has got a lot of work with very little time left to try and salvage something of this race, sitting in 20th.
Well, exactly, Joe. We only have 11 laps. They are bunched up pretty well at this stage. Only a couple of guys on the outside, most of them going to the inside to try and get through the tri-oval section and the corners, because no bump.
Oh, and we got a car in the apron.
And we got,
I'm sorry, the number 048 was on the apron and actually went up high into the number 2, I believe, of Donnie Giartano. Almost caused an accident, but they managed to hold it together miraculously, even though they were going through the corner amidst traffic.
Well, good on them for managing to do that, as we see guys again on the touching the apron, and now looking at the number 94 on the outside there, going past the 8 car, and on the inside of the 8 car was the car that went down onto the apron. Even these guys are pushing as hard as they can now, but they are the mid-pack at the moment. Out front, it's the likes of Greg Hooks and Brandon Tuberco.
Yeah, that inside lane started to become the predominant one. The 9 at Tuberco was out there all by himself, and now he has some help, as it is the 84 that has stepped out of the 64 of Logan Doherty on the outside lane. Now the 23 of Rod Flagg, the 28 of Shane McKeechin have joined in that. They're the 3rd tandem in line. The 16 is also in the mix. That's Austin Carver, as these leaders try to put a little bit of a gap on 8th on back. The top 7 trying to pull away just a little bit. This time out of 4, though, still nose to nose for the lead. It looks like it may be an advantage this time by the stripe for that machine on the outside lane of Doherty.
And we've got the 8 and the 57 working together, trying to make up some time on the inside. And on the outside, we've got the 5 there, and he's trying to push the 94. So these guys are bunching up now. Once again, they all get together. The 8 is caught up to the pack in front. So now the race is on, and we've got a line on the outside, as we see normally. Frank Basilia in 2 minds on whether he wants to be on the outside or the inside. Decides that he wants to be halfway, and the 5 car decides that he will get to the inside as fast as he can to avoid any possibility of contact with the 94. But The laps are running out. 8 laps to go. You want to be near the front now. Logan Doherty in charge of this race. Greg Hooks in second place. Rod Flag up there. Brandon Chaburko takes over. Logan Doherty on the inside. So frantic racing to try and get the #1 spot, Evan.
Yeah, it's getting heated up front. The 28 of Shane McKeechan debates if he wants to go down low or if he's going to stay outside. It is Rod Flag who now leads the outside charge down the back straightaway and now into corner number 3. The top two trying to tandem and pull away just a little bit. It is Brandon Chaburko and Nathan Doherty. Now that 23 of Flag jumps down the line, that leaves Shane McKeechan. Oh, one car on the apron. The 16 is able to hang on to it. That was Austin Carver, slid up and nearly caught the door of the 98 of Greg Hooks. Everybody hangs on for the time being, but this time by the start-finish line, laps continue to wind down as Chaburko, P1.
Chaburko is indeed in P1. He's being helped there by the number, is that Logan Doherty, the 64? Not quite sure, I think it is. And these two guys working together, going down the backstretch. On the outside, we've got the 98 of Greg Hooks pushing Jason Altmans, I believe that is on the outside. These guys having a run, trying to get to the front, and they're doing a great job of it. They won't be able to quite get to the front as they have to back off going through the turn, but man, they are trying as hard as they can.
Oh, and once again, I see that Chaburko is blinking just a little bit, and this is bad news because Logan Doherty, who's been pushing him, has been very aggressive in that, absolutely stopping for no one. At one point even got Chaburko out of shape. He was pushing him so hard coming up towards the tri-oval. But right now they are very solidly holding on to that lower front line.
And on the outside we still have 3-4 cars trying, I'm talking about the front pack here, trying to make their way towards the front. Some great pushing going on down the back stretch here, Evan. These guys know that there are only 5 laps to go. They want to be in the front in case a caution comes down.
Yeah, this time by, it's going to be 5 to go at the stripe. The top two had kind of cleared that 2-wide battle. It was 2 wide from third on back, but he'll check up the 97. Going to get to the back bumper. That's Altmans as he looked to the outside. No, because here comes Rod Flag. Now the 64 of Doherty sticking a nose out. He wants some air. Does he leave the 3? Yes, he does. He wants a crack at the #1 spot. Rod Flag going to get on his bumper. Can Chaburko hang on? Or does that 64 get clear? They can't push in the corner where they might have been able to get it done. It's going to be real close off of 2. Now Brandon Chaburko has help, but it is going to remain side by side up front down the back.
Absolutely, and the 3 of Chaburko's got the 97 behind him, pushing him. On the outside, we've got Logan Doherty and Rod Flag making a move down the outside, trying to get to the front. Shane McKeechan's in there as well. The 16 machine of Austin Carver in there as well. The number 8 of Dana Osborne in there as well. These guys are pushing as hard as they can. Coming through the tri-oval is Brandon Chaburko in the lead at this point in time. Behind him, Jason Altmans. And on the outside, we have Rod Flag and Logan Doherty. Anyone's race at this point in time, Evan.
Yeah, it's starting to get real crazy. The 97 is thinking now he's going to go to the outside once again, wants to take another crack at the lead. He has a huge run from the 64. Can he clear the 3 into the corner? Yes, he does. And new race leader, the 97 of Holtmans. It's going to be the 64 of Doherty now leading the outside lane as people in the mid-pack have started to go 3 wide at this point. A caution would end this race. Nobody's going to let go of that top spot easily. The 3 of Chaburko trying to get hard on the back bumper of Jason Altmans. And now for a moment, the 64 of Doherty has the nose out front.
And we see a lap car out in front of them on the inside. He does move to the outside lane right now, and that gives the opportunity to the leaders to pass him cleanly. A good move there from whoever that was. I didn't quite get it. But in front here with Jason Altmans, nearly a touch there between himself and the outside car of Logan Doherty. Brandon Chaburko pushing as hard as he can. Rod Flag on the outside pushing as hard as he can. Shane McKeechan and Dana Osborne in it as well. 2 laps to go, Evan. Anyone's race. What are we going to see in the next 2 laps?
You got to be careful because that outside lane, you see right there with the 64, they're starting to pinch down, and that's where you can easily hook somebody into the fence, but it's gloves off at this point. 97 of Jason Altmans, he's going to have the advantage at 2 to go, Joe.
And this right now, guys, is all about rhythm and timing. Oh, a huge jump from Logan Doherty on the outside trying to weave out of the way. But timing it just right, getting your momentum going out of the corner so that you can be pushing entirely down that straightaway. The guys that are doing it best are the ones that you're seeing up front as we see the number 94 jump out of line and get out of everybody's way since he's a lap down or two.
Yeah, that's a good move on his side. And now we will see a white flag coming up on the next time by. Logan Doherty on the outside, Jason Altman's on the inside, Brandon Tuberco behind him, and Rod Flag behind Doherty. They are pinching down, as you said, Evan. This is the last lap. It's all on the line right now.
Oh, they're door banging. There's a lot of contact. The white flag is out. It's going to be a race back to the stripe no matter what happens. The 97 of Oatmans is in the best spot he can be because he's in front of it. The 3 is going to slide up. Does he go to the outside? Yes, he does. Tuberco going to make it side by side at a corner number 2. The 16 now going to pull up the 3rd. And we're going. It's a drag race down the back straightaway for the final time.
And Logan Doherty gets behind Brandon Tuberco, pushes him as hard as they can. They come into the final turn. Turn number 3 just before and we see some smoke flying there. Everybody going as hard as they possibly can. Who will it be? Still Jason Altman's in front. Brandon Tuberco on his outside heading towards the line. Brandon Tuberco gets on the outside. Jason Altman's fights for the chicken flag flies. Everyone crashes out, but they do cross the line. I do believe it was Jason Altman's that got it right there, Evan.
He's able to get it. The top 3, I think, survived that one, and from there on back, Rod Flag, McEachin and company barrel rolling, a couple machines up in the air, one car taking the brunt of that. Looks like the 57 of Jared Haggerty. Not only that, but that had a potential of mixing up some positions. Tuberco's going to get 3rd, guys. Rod Flag is going to get 4th. They were both trailing Brandon Tuberco at the start of the night by 4 and 5 points respectively. And Frank Busilia, that matter, he entered tonight at the top, guys. He'll finish 19th position. Just like that, all that consistency that we saw from the 94 is gone. And he's going to be playing catch-up in these next 4 races.
Well, guys, we will talk all about this a lot more when we come back from this break. We'll hopefully get some driver interviews going as well. We need to talk about quite a little bit, as that was some great racing towards the end there. Back soon, folks.
Back live here at the Talladega Superspeedway as the iSuperSpeedway.com race number 8 comes to a close with Jason Altmans on top after a big crash across the start-finish line. He gets it by 7/100ths of a second over Austin Carver, and we're going to run you down through the final finishing order. Obviously, Altmans taking the number 1 spot. Austin Carver coming home second, Brandon Chaburko third, and from there on back was really the melee. Rod Flagg comes home in fourth, Shane McEachin a 5th place result, Larry Camp 6th, Don Hartman 7th, Ramon Evans 8th, Logan Doherty comes home with a 9th place finish after being in position number 4 just seconds before the finish, and Dana Osborne rounds out the top 10, Joe.
Then in 11th, you've got Jared Haggerty, followed by Rodney Wofford in 12th. Kent Connolly took home 13th, followed by Greg Hooks in 14th, Sean Turner in 15th, Donnie Giarratano in 16th, and Lee Heron in 17th. Then it's Chris Jennings in 18th, and a former championship leader, Frank Busilia, in 19th. Josh Hanner rounds out the top 20.
And from here on back, the rest of these machines were retired. They were behind the wall at the checkered flag. David Schutma will walk away with a 21st place result. Mark Jorgensen Jr. 22nd, Jimmy Todd 23rd, and rounding out the field 36 laps down was Ray Rittenauer II. A tough night for him after starting in 21st. He rounds out your 24-car field, but Jason Altmans again is able to walk away in victory lane, and Joe Peak is down there in victory lane. He's caught up with our winner.
Yeah, we have Jason Altmans, who did a handy job, you have to say, today, coming from 20th to 1st. Now, there was a number of big ones out there today, Jason. What was your method to try and avoid all that mess?
Hey, guys. I closed my eyes a couple times and just kind of guessed, and I lucked out. That's what it came down to.
In that final green flag run, there was a lot of dicing going on up at the front there, and you managed to come out ahead of it. It seemed like aggressive moves were paying off there to try and work your way up and cut people off once you got to the lead. Was that sort of your method to try and get up there, or were you a little bit more conservative?
I don't get to run these very often, so I had the kind of the theory of just whatever, we're gonna go for the win no matter what here. So I went for it and got up to the front, 3rd place in the last restart, and said, well, I'll try to do some math and figure out when I can get, or when I can time my engine blowing and try to get in the front or try to get ahead of Chaburko there, and somehow made it.
Well, you are in an elite group in this series. You are now the 6th winner, I believe, if I'm looking at this correctly. So that is not easily won. A fantastic job today. You held on to it excellently, avoided the trouble when needed be, and just congratulations on the win.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I kind of was listening to the broadcast earlier, and there's a few guys kind of like, Jason Altmans, who's this guy? Because I don't get to run it often enough, so it's not a name you guys see a lot. So I'm glad I could at least get up there and show the John Deere car in victory lane for once.
Well, once again, fantastic job today, and we hope to see more of you dicing out with the guys up front.
Thank you, gentlemen.
And I'll hand it off to Evan, who is, I believe, talking to Austin Carver, our 2nd place finisher.
Yeah, we've caught up with the driver of the Exxon Chevrolet who comes home at a number 2 position, Austin. The gap is going to be 7/100ths of a second, and coming down to the finish, it looks like you, Chaburko, and Altmans, you were the only 3 that really survived that. Walk us through that final lap. You were kind of boxed in there. Did you really have any opportunity of stepping out of line to try to make something work?
There was really never a chance to get anything going there. It's kind of boxed in that 3rd spot. Even if something had opened up, it's my 2nd race here and not got a lot of friends around, so I might have got shuffled out of that 3rd groove. So I said, hey, I'll take my chances and see what can happen. Maybe something will open up there. Maybe Jason will jump high. Never happened, but that last lap, they don't fix this bottom line. It's just you get in the seam and it's going to get somebody killed. And I hate it for everybody behind. My car was just jumping around down there. I see that Dana got below me and just nothing to do. It was stuck in that seam there, but luckily it kept it straight. Hate it for all those guys, but hopefully everybody made it across the line.
You mentioned there only your second race going here, so obviously a lot of part of super speedway racing is you have to have trust. You have to know what the other drivers are going to do when you're around them. Walk us through your night. I mean, you started in 7th position. We saw a couple of yellows where you kind of caught up in any of those, and how'd you put yourself in position to at least be in contention for this one there at the end?
Well, you know, it was just a strategy. I wanted to start up at the front. We did start 7th, got shuffled out. Had some connections issues early, and then from there on I just wanted to kind of ride the back, make sure I had enough fuel, just go through the motions. You know, when it gets 20 to go with the caliber of drivers that iSuperSpeedway has, you've got to go. So, you know, pretty much from that point on I just wanted to stay on that bottom line. I've got a buddy, Kent Conley and Sean Turner, could never get hooked up with them. I really wanted to work something on the high groove with them, but that just never happened tonight. So decided just to stick on that low line, right at the back, avoid wrecks, and then once it was go time, just put it in there and see what we could do.
Do you have any future plans as far as running some more races this season with the iSuperSpeedway guys?
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm going to plan on making the remainder schedule. I run at Revved Up Racing, and Rod Flagg does a tremendous job over here, and he invited us over, and yeah, I've loved it. This has been an exciting couple weeks for me, and I just can't wait to establish, you know, reputation, get some guys that want to work with me, and see what we can do once that plays out. But again, shout out to Rod Flagg, does an amazing job. You guys do a great job broadcasting it, and I look forward to every iSuperSpeedway event.
And definitely, well, again, congratulations on that top 2 finish. You put on a show, and hopefully we'll see the number 16 back up front here in the future.
We'll sure try to make it happen. I appreciate it.
Guys, it's it down here from pit road. That is Austin Carver, driver the number 16 Chevrolet, is going to come home in the number 2 spot. And Joe, you're back down. You've caught up with Brandon Chaburko, who has a solid points night, walks away with 3rd, and is going to leave here at the top of the pile.
Yeah, Brandon, you started on pole, came home on the podium at least, but it wasn't a win. You finished in 3rd. However, you've swung from being 4 points behind in the championship to 4 points ahead. Are you satisfied with that, or were you hoping for a little bit more tonight?
Oh, no, you can't really complain whenever you get a podium finish. I mean, I won my heat race and won the Dash for Cash, so I can't complain. Hats off to Jason for winning. That was a hell of a battle at the end.
Well, your main rival in the championship up until now has been Frank Busilian. Unfortunately, he's dropped quite a ways back with a lot of problems in this race. Do you think that that's going to be evened out later on by maybe some bad luck of your own, or do you think you can manage to stay out of trouble and keep this streak going till later in the championship?
I'd like to think that we'll continue to have these good finishes. The past 2 weeks, we've had solid finishes. Back at Daytona, we won, and finished 3rd here, so hopefully we can keep the good luck train going.
Good luck train is a good way to put it. We were mentioning how you had some incredibly lucky moments throughout this race, especially a very close one in the trioval where you almost made contact in that wreck that started at the very front.
Yeah, I saw it looked like Haggerty turned Rodney, and luckily somehow Rodney did not go and hit me. I have no clue how. I jerked the wheel up a little bit and barely scraped through there.
Well, again, congratulations on a podium finish. Well done, and good luck on the rest of your championship run.
Thank you.
Well, Evan, that's it for our interviews, and it's certainly been eye-opening on some very interesting thoughts on this track and some of the racing so far.
Yeah, one would think that if you come to a super speedway for all races in your season, you're going to get the same product every time. It's the complete opposite here with the iSuperSpeedway, guys. Every race has its own character that it takes, and tonight was another solid one. We got to see a really exciting finish, a lot of good, hard racing. Obviously, the new rules that the officials have put into effect really paid due dividends, and we saw a lot of great pack racing. And, Joe, before we step away, any closing thoughts on the race tonight?
Well, I want to say that I'm actually quite proud of the fact that they had a green flag run to the finish. That was one of the most exciting races I've watched in this series, most exciting finishes I've watched in this series. And kudos to everybody in that top pack, because there was some very close, very intense racing, and everybody kept a pretty cool head. It kind of fell apart at the line, but at least it was there and not with 3 laps to go and finishing under yellow.
For sure on that one. But again, after 47 laps, it is going to be Jason Altmans by a mere 7/100ths of a second is going to walk away in victory lane. And that's pretty much going to wrap up tonight's broadcast. Again, we'd like to thank Rod Flagg and his team, the organizers of the league, for putting on the great racing that we get to be a privilege of and watch week in and week out. We also want to thank the makers of the various software and hardware that help make the streams possible. That includes those of iRacing.com, XSplit, Twitch.tv, Audio Technica, Burringer, and Aver Media. Also want to thank everybody in the team tonight, Giancarlo pushing the buttons and getting us on the air tonight, and myself, Richard, Joe up here in the broadcast booth. It's always fun coming out with the iSuperSpeedway guys on Friday nights. If you'd like more about the GSRC, find it www.globalsimracingchannel.com, along with archived races and race highlights. We're also on Twitter. Tweet us at GRC Channel, or at Facebook, facebook.com/globalsimracingchannel. Major thanks to Dougie Beard, obviously creating the camera sets that you saw during the broadcast. Always does an amazing job getting us the best angles to make the streams as top-notch as we can week in and week out. Also, another special thank to Eric Ekholm, who provides us with much of the music. You can find him not only here on GSRC, but in TV commercials, movie trailers, iTunes, and Spotify. If you like the music, tell Eric where you heard it at Eric Ekholm. That is EKHOLM, Eric Ekholm. Round 9 of the iSuperSpeedway.com A-Main Series is going to be coming up at Daytona International Speedway, and that will be a daylight race for race number 9 of 12 as we close in on the championship battle. That's going to be a good one as we come down to 4 races to go. Upcoming events on GSRC, doubleheader coming up actually tomorrow. We have MW2S putting on a race as well as the Continental Endurance Sports Car Series also coming up on Sunday, the 7th of September. VSRA going to be back in action at next Wednesday. It's going to be ASRS, the trucks, going to be back in action. But again, that's going to do it. Again, thanks to everybody for being up here in the broadcast booth tonight. Again, Jason Altman's going to walk away with his first victory in the iSuperSpeedway.com Cup Series. That's going to do it for tonight's race. Until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.